So back again, we've got Mike's. This is Mike's original slot. So Mike's he's done us a big solid by filling in for a presenter who dropped out earlier on today, but this will be Mike's talk now. So Mike, please welcome up again.
Thanks, brother.
Thanks, mate.
Cool. All right. Check one. All right. Cool. So I thought we'd just jump into some questions and answers. That'd probably be easiest. I know I talked to a few people at lunch, so I can go into more talking, but I'd rather do Q&A. So any questions right off the bat from what we talked about already? Going once. I know everyone's just like, oh, in food coma. Yeah, go for it.
You're talking about your
P for P. Yeah, I'll write it up. Everyone just, because about 5 different variations of that word came out through lunch. So it's P as in like pay for performance. So P for P.
Software you use?
Yeah, P for P software.com.
Is it? Okay.
Yep, so if you just do software.com, and then if you do /training, it's free training. So we train you how to do everything. You don't have to buy it from us. So you can literally rip me off. That's fine. I don't care. I think it's easier just to use the software, but if you really wanted to, you could.
So you've created a few software as a services, basically?
Yep, it's basically software as a service. It's a per monthly subscription based upon how many employees you have. Yep. So p4psoftware.com /training. I think there's like 4 gyms owners already using it. A couple in cleaning, a couple in mowing, a couple in New Zealand.
Does it integrate?
No integrations yet.
But when you're saying about the customer complaints,
Oh yeah.
how do they complain? Do they complain into the software? Or do they call?
They'd be calling you probably, right? And then you'd go in there. So basically what our goal is that you can run P4P 1 minute per day per employee. Because you will need to go in there and say, okay, how much revenue do they earn? Boom. Are there any yellow slips or callbacks or deductions? You can enter those in. So our goal is 1 minute per day per employee to run it, because you do need to do it every single day.
But so you have to manually input the revenue, and you have to manually.
Correct. Yeah, you do. Yeah, and the reason we do that, we were talking about it at lunch a little bit. In theory, if you earn $600 in total revenue and you're giving 33% of revenue, they'd be getting $200, right? The problem is in landscaping or fencing or other industries where you have material costs, okay? You do not want to give them a third of the total revenue. You want to give them a third of the total labor revenue, okay? So what this means is if I'm going to have a project and it's $900, but $300 of that is debris, rubbish, it is plant material, bark mulch, whatever it might be, they don't get a piece of this. They only get a piece of the labor revenue. Okay, so in p4psoftware.com we have 2 different versions. One's simple mode, and one's advanced mode, it's just a setting. The simple mode is just going to take your revenue and give them a third of it. This is great for cleaning, it's great for mowing. But as soon as you start going to project-based work where there's material costs, debris, estimate fees, whatever you're throwing in there, you will need to use how much of it is labor revenue, okay? And so what we've done to simplify that is actually break it down into budgeted hours. So instead of saying how much labor revenue did you earn for the day, what we will say is how many budgeted hours of work did they perform? Let's just say that's 7 budgeted hours in a day. And then what do you charge per budgeted hour? Well, it's $80. Okay, great. That means I'm gonna have $560 in labor revenue for that day, and the software will do that on the back end and then give them a third, or whatever percentage you're giving here. So it's all customizable inside the software in terms of what percentage you give them, what their base pay is. Because I know here you have that very scripted levels of apprenticeship, and so that would be their base pay on P4P. But yeah, there's way more training on there. It's totally free. A lot more videos of myself explaining it, etc.
So a question from online from Angela.
Angela.
Yeah, question from Mike. When you're describing the 3 stages of growth/stress, what advice would you give to any business owners that may have gone back to stage 1 from stage 2, for example?
Good question. First and foremost, you got to ask yourself, do you want me to repeat the question, or can they hear you?
You go.
Okay, so the question is, if you went out of the first stage of growth into like the second or third and then retreat back to the first one, would you recommend trying again to grow beyond that? I think the first thing is you got to ask yourself, are you meant to be in the second stage or third stage? Like having that financial stress, having employees, having all of that, is that so is that what are you not cut out for it? And it's okay. It's not a bad thing just to be self-aware enough. Otherwise, just to keep, like, why are you doing this to yourself? Just beating yourself up. Like, just keep hitting yourself up against the head, on a wall. It's like, just stop. Just stay small, and that's fine. That would be my first thing, is make sure you're actually capable mentally of doing that, and you can take that kind of stress and that level of pressure. And then secondarily, it would be like, what didn't work the first time? Were you not hiring people correctly? Was there some sort of error in the way that you're paying people? Were they just super inefficient? So a really quick way to mark efficiency that I think everyone in the home improvement industry should be marking and tracking. Sorry, I'm really into numbers. I know, like, I did training here. I didn't do a whole lot of numbers, so I apologize if numbers you don't enjoy. But I love numbers, okay? The only thing that matters when it comes to the labor industry is your efficiency score. Because ultimately, all of us in the industry of cleaning, lawn care, fencing, whatever it is, all we're doing is selling time. That's all we're doing. That's why you don't ever hear me talk about, if you listen to my channel, about mowers or trucks or trailers. It honestly, in my mind, doesn't matter. It does not matter. The type of truck you buy, flip a coin. Type of mower you're gonna use, flip a coin. It doesn't matter. It's a tool that simply allows me to sell labor at a higher rate than what I pay for it. Okay? Your truck, your equipment, all those things is what allows you to charge the customer $100 an hour when you're paying the employee $25. That arbitrage of going from 25 to 100 is made by you having the equipment, you having the tools, you having a business license, and having insurance. All those things, though, is not what the customer is buying. The customer is buying the labor. Okay? So all I care about is how efficient is that labor. Because all we're doing is selling time to a customer. That's all we're doing. And so what we do in terms of efficiency score is we look at how many budget hours were completed in a day, divided by how many clocked hours were on that day. Okay? So we do everything in terms of budget hours. So if you're doing a lawn, you say it's $50 per cut. Okay? Well, if your if your hourly rate is $100 per hour, $100 per man hour, then that would mean that that lawn has 0.5 budgeted hours. Make sense? I'm going to add up all my budgeted hours at the end of the day, see how much was completed, of jobs that were completed, how many budget hours. I'm going to divide that by how many hours I actually clocked from the time I started the day to the time that it ended. That is going to track your efficiency score. What you're typically going to see, let's just use lawn care for an example, is somewhere in the realm of about 6 budgeted hours to every 8 clocked hours. That imputes a 75% efficiency score. That also implies a 25% waste factor. Okay? Because if you were 100%, it would mean that you were on the job all day long. And this is the arch nemesis of every unprofitable labor industry type of business, is this number. They don't know what it is, and it's usually under 75%. Almost every single lawn care and landscaping business that I see, under 70% is usually unprofitable and bound to not be able to grow or scale. This is the only number you should be tracking if you're trying to figure out profitability. The only other number you need to know if you're trying to grow your business is close ratio. If you can just close the majority of your jobs, and you guys are very consistent at 70, 80%, then if you're still not growing, you need more leads. And that's what we talked about before lunch. Get more leads, buy more leads. It's a great deal. So efficiency score, you gotta know these things. Number one reason I think that most labor industry, lawn care, landscaping, etc., don't hire is because they have no idea whether or not that employee is making you any money. This number, track that every day, and you'll know exactly who's good employee and who's bad. You just have that number there. P for P will smoke them out really fast too. Within a paycheck, you'll know whether or not someone's a high performer or not. But this number here, it should be tracked every single day. We track it inside the software for each week, month, etc. Cool. Any other questions?
Just on that there.
Yeah.
You've got 6 budget hours, but they've clocked 8.
Mm-hmm.
So that job wouldn't have been profitable.
It can be profitable. This really doesn't have anything to do with being profitable or not. This is simply a measure of how much of my clocked day is actually spent doing work. right? Because the other 25% of this day was spent driving, unloading equipment, doing whatever, besides actually completing budgeted hours.
It's quite similar. So like your wage to sales, virtually the same thing. So
Yes. Exactly. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yep. Yeah, what you're talking about is you take your total wages of a. Are you talking about what I talk about in my podcast?
Yeah.
Okay. So wages, the total wages. If you take this number at the end of the month, divide that by your total revenue. This is another number you want to be tracking all the time to be determining what percentage of your total revenue is going out the door to wages. The problem with this number, and the reason it's not as accurate when it comes to efficiency as this number, is because this revenue has labor, materials, and other fees inside of it. So it can be messed up. Whereas this is strictly based upon the efficiency of labor. And the reason labor is so important is because not only if you look at profit and loss statement of any home improvement industry business, labor makes up the biggest expense, especially you scale, right? Like if you're a solo operator right now, if you do all the work, you don't see wages as a big expense. Once you get about 5 employees, it is your number one expense. It's the determining factor of whether or not you're profitable. It's also a massive variable expense. Does everyone know variable versus fixed expense? Cool. So variable expenses are bad news in this industry because that means if it rains and everyone goes slower that day, you just didn't make any money. Okay? So that's why with P4P, we fix that expense of labor at a certain threshold of 33% or whatever you're using inside the software, because then regardless of what the weather is, regardless of whether they get a flat tire, regardless if they're having a bad day, I know that I'm getting a certain percentage of my revenue to labor. Joel.
All the questions online, so I'll read out the first one. Matt Wilson's in Dogwash says, question for Mike, by incentivising speed, do you find that there is a drop in quality? How do you avoid that and associate months customer dissatisfaction? First question.
Yeah, so quality versus quantity kind of thing when it comes to P4P. If I incentivize speed, am I going to have a drop off in quality? We had 60% less complaints after we implemented P4P compared to hourly. The reason for that is twofold. We have what we call the yellow slip system. It's not only is it a deduction on their paycheck, but also that yellow slip, when a call comes in or an email or whatever complaint comes in, we do not address that from the office level. As a manager, as an owner, it's one thing that I personally hear a lot in gyms is like if an employee does a mistake, I'll fix it. I think that's the worst thing you could ever do. It disarms the employee from taking ownership of their job. And if they make a mistake, they're going back and fixing it. Okay, so with a yellow slip system, what we do, not only is a deduction on P4P, but also when a complaint comes in, we do not talk about with the employee, we do not communicate with the customer, besides to tell them that employee will be back within 24 to 48 hours. That becomes a yellow slip. What we do is we write out on a square piece of paper, customer's name, what their complaint was, and who was there last. That goes on the desk. We do not talk to the employee about it, but it's right underneath where they hang up the keys at the end of the day. They know if there's a yellow slip with their name on it and it's not resolved within 24 hours, they can have all their P4P taken away on a paycheck. So when they see that yellow slip, they are immediately grabbing it and immediately going back to the customer's house. When they go back to the customer's house, they have to resolve the issue, have it signed off on. They bring that yellow slip back to the office, and at the next team meeting, they have to tell everyone in the room, the entire team, what happened. So for some guys, they're more afraid of that experience, talking in front of all their colleagues about what they did wrong, than they are about $20 or $15 or the 30 minutes it takes to go back to the property. What that does is it pushes that little bit of social pressure along with financial pressure on them, that when they're finished a lawn, they take the extra 5 seconds to be like, okay, did I get everything? Yes, okay, great. That's all you need for your quality to be at a higher level.
Another one from online from Nathan's gone. When you take on your first employee after having, them work for you for a month or so to start with, is it advisable to have them work with you and get more jobs in a day done, or by themselves to supply tools and vans?
Oh, this is so good. This is the capacity-based growth question. Okay, so there's this thing called capacity-based growth. Give me a second. Much better. Thank you for this whiteboard. Okay, so this is what everyone always wonders, like, should I buy a truck or should I get an employee? Should I get an employee or should I get a truck when I'm trying to grow? Here's my opinion. The most profitable way to grow your business when it comes to buying assets like a truck, equipment, trailers, etc., is what I call capacity-based growth. Okay. So I think the most profitable way to grow a business is to be at capacity. In other words, using your assets every single day. Your truck should be out on the road every single day. If it's not, there's no reason to buy another one. If all your equipment's not being used every single day, there's no reason to buy more of it. So what I'm going to be looking at is, what is your capacity? So let's say you have one truck, okay? One truck, boom. Now if there's one employee, i.e. you in that truck, let's just assume you can make about $10,000 in monthly revenue, okay? Now, this is not full capacity because what can I do before I buy another truck? I can hire an employee. So if I get an employee, so myself and one employee, now this is not going to go to 20,000. You're not going to get 100% or a doubling of efficiency, but it might go to 18,000 in monthly revenue, myself and one employee. Again, this is max capacity. This is you working all day long and then doing estimates in the evening, probably on the weekends too, okay? That's full capacity. So what I would personally do if you're restricted on cash and you have restricted capital, I would be growing 18,000 and then buying another truck. I would do the exact same thing over and over and over again, but I would not buy another truck until I have full capacity. Unless you're growing so fast, and I'm talking about, like for us, we will only buy multiple trucks when we get started if we're going from 0 to 50,000 in 3 months. And that's what I'll do at my personal locations that I own. I'll immediately buy 2 to 3 trucks, 3 to 4 employees, but I expect within 3 months we're doing 40 to 50,000 a month in revenue. So if you're not growing that fast, I'd recommend using capacity-based growth, which is what can I get, what's my total max amount of revenue I can get by getting variable cost, which is labor, and not buying fixed expenses in the form of assets. So asset utilization is something you want to be tracking as well, especially when you have expensive trucks, $20,000, $30,000 for trucks. You better make sure you are tracking how often that vehicle is moving. If it's, when I come to my shop, I'm only there once a week for about 30 minutes. When I go there, the one thing I'm looking at, and the managers know it, is every truck out on the road, is every trailer on the road. I only want to have 1 or 2 out of 15 or 16 trucks at the one location that is stationary and at the shop. If not, we are not at our capacity. Okay, that's where your max profit's going to be. Obviously, you would have redundancy, especially if 15 trucks, you've got to have 1 or 2 backups. But I still want those on the road. Because guess what you can do if a truck goes down and you have 15 trucks? You throw an employee or 2 into another truck, and you have just less trucks that day. So I want my trucks, my assets working for me all day long. Okay, there's this thing when you start talking about like larger companies, you'll hear this ROE, return on equity, and return on assets. These are things that we always talk about return on investment because we look at capital into our business. But another way to track return is how much do I have in equity in the business and what's my return on that? And also what do I have in assets sitting in my truck, sitting in my equipment, sitting in all the stuff that you buy every single day. Okay? That's why I think it's I would much rather someone instead of go buy a second truck here with one, like if you're thinking about getting your first employee, I do not believe you need a second truck right off the bat. Go get an employee, fill to capacity, and then go get another truck. Unless you're going to go like doubling over the next few months. You expect to need it right away.
On that, given the seasonality of like mowing,
Mm-hmm.
you discard that, like in winter you're going to have trucks sit, and that's just the way it is, and you understand that. Is that your logic with it? And then also, given like coming into summer period, would you consider, say, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you might have like 3 trucks on the road, but Thursday, Friday, there's always an increase in like leads because people want things done by the weekend. Having those trucks spare early in the week will give you the capacity to service those clients at the end of the week. Is that how does that play into it when you look at like your return on assets, or is that more just about growth? Because you're considering the growth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really personal preference. Like some of our locations, they like to do the same thing. Like end of the week, we let our projects roll into the end of the week. We get all our mowing done at the beginning of the week. I'm not so concerned about that. But what I don't like to see, what I'll tell a franchisee off for is they have 1 truck for mowing and they use it Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and then Thursday, Friday, they have another truck and another trailer for their projects, and they're literally using one of the trucks for 2 days a week. It's like, okay, we've got to figure out you need to grow so that this other truck can get a different trailer or whatever you need so it can be moving 5 days a week. And so I just want to see trucks moving. Like it's an expensive asset. If we're not using them, sell the thing. Get your variable cost into 1 truck if needs be.
Would you say the same thing between mowing as well? A ride-on versus a push mower if you weren't, I've only got 2 jobs across my 80 clients, or however many clients I've got right now, that could be ride-on jobs.
Yep.
But the rest of them are push mower, and I do that one and it takes me an hour and a half to do as a push mower. But if I had a ride-on, it would take me 20 minutes, but then I've got this asset that I'm not currently using.
Yeah, exactly. So question is, should I get a riding lawnmower if I have a few larger properties versus just using my push mower all the time? We have what we call the 80th percentile rule. That means you're going to look at 80% of your properties and make sure you can service those. I'm happy to go with 50% in a location if I'm not trying to grow really fast. And that is, what's the minimum size of truck and trailer and equipment I can get away with and still service 50% of the population? Okay, for some of our markets in the US, they have to have a 52-inch, a 60-inch zero turn. It is because everyone's house is an acre or 2 acres. Like, you're not doing a push mower. But in our market, for example, 80% of the properties can be done with a 21-inch push mower. Therefore, we're going to stick to that. Now, will we bid on large jobs? Yes. And we have one job that I'm thinking of specifically is $1,600, and it's done with a push mower. And it's like 2.5 or 3 acres, which is, what's that in like your common speak? That's 128, 30, 40, 5,000. That's 9, 12, 1,200 square meters. 12,000 square meters. It's just a lot, okay? But the bottom line is, if you're doing an estimate based upon budgeted hours, hang with me for a second, okay? If you're doing a job based upon budgeted hours, and you're looking at a job and say, how long will that take? And you say 1 hour. Okay, great. We're gonna charge $80 per hour. How much is that long gonna cost? $80. Now let's assume I go buy a really nice, big, flashy mower. Now I can do that job in 30 minutes. And you know what a lot of people will do? Great, I'll charge 40 bucks. You know what you just did, right? You just handed all of the cost savings to the customer. Okay, so that's why you gotta remember too, on P for P, I'm getting the percentage of the labor revenue, which means when I give them bigger and better equipment, if I upgrade equipment, I'm giving the guys a favor because ultimately the amount of money I'm making on a job stays the same. Okay. So when it comes to your question, though, I would be looking at what's 80% of your population, get away with that, and then realize that you can bid on the other 20%. You're just going to probably be very high in price, but that's fine. You're bidding based upon budgeted hours, not based upon other factors. Yeah. We do our bids over the phone. So when people call into our call center, we call it command center. They do square footage live, and then we'll give a quote over the phone, get a credit card. And then our franchisee it pops up as a job scheduled. We don't have an estimate process or anything.
How do you honor that, like things like access, overgrown lawns?
Yeah.
How do you play in all that? Is it one person?
Oh, we're going to go over the phone estimates. All right, here we go. So yeah, for years I didn't do over the phone estimates. I thought, hey, I can't do it because I don't know how long the grass is. I don't know if there's obstacles. I don't know if there's a chessboard in the middle of the lawn. I'm looking at a satellite image from 4 years ago. For all I know, they have a swing set and 4 cars that are junked out in the back. That's true. It's 100% true. Here's what you're not thinking about. How long does it take you to drive 30 minutes to their house and 30 minutes back at the end of the day? That's an hour. You say, oh, it's just like at the end of the day, I was throwing a couple of those, no problem. No, that hour is you could have otherwise been on a property making $80 an hour. That estimate cost you $80. 5 times as much as what you paid in lead fees. The fact that someone would cry about a lead fee and then drive an hour is absolutely ludicrous. So first and foremost, the drive time saving the estimator. We can do drive-by estimates. So we have 3 different types of estimates. We have over the phone, we have drive-by, and then we have in-person. This one I hate. I hate meeting the customer. Not because I hate the people, but because I can only do about 8 to 10 of these in a day if I'm full-time estimator. If I'm doing drive-bys, I can do about 20 of those in a day. If I'm doing over-the-phone estimates, theoretically, I can do hundreds. Okay? So again, if you're trying to scale, I don't think this is a big issue with gyms, but if you're trying to scale very quickly, you need to try to get this direction because you cannot scale meeting 8 to 10 people a day and driving all the day long, and you have vehicle and insurance and all the rest of it. So how we do it in terms of square footage for mowing is, number one, I did not do it because of all those variables. The thing is, you've got to realize that if you just took, how you do this, if you actually want to figure this out, is just do a chart, do square footage versus price on an Excel spreadsheet, and what will end up happening, you have like this. Just mark where all your customers are at, and you'll find a pretty good regression that you can follow then for your pricing matrix. So yeah, you're going to be slightly inaccurate, but all you're going to do, I don't know if Jim Jobs does this or not, run a report. You can run budgeted hours versus how long it actually takes you on every single job that you're doing, and then just determine which ones need to be increased in price after a few months. So I'd just rather get them as a customer, and the worst case scenario is, Mr. Jones, we got to charge you $10 extra. We did this over satellite, and we were wrong. And we've never lost a customer over that. So.
A question from online from the rest of the
Wait, I don't think we answered it fully, though. Give me a second, all right? So back to over the phone estimates. First one reason was the variables, right? I thought for sure we could not handle that. The next thing is the length of the lawn, okay? You might have the square footage nailed. So what we do is we charge a per minute price for the first cut to get it up to spec. So we tell the customer, hey, Mr. Jones, it's going to cost you $60 for a weekly service. Yeah, great, fantastic, get your car on file. The first visit is $1 per minute per man hour, or $1.33 per minute per man hour, or $2, whatever you want to charge. And that way we can get the property up to specification, get your edges established, get the lawn down, and then from then on it's going to be that price in perpetuity. And we never had an issue with that. The only time you're going to have an issue with that is if they all of a sudden are like, oh, well, actually it's really long, and that's why you do it. Because what people will try to do with over-the-phone estimates is get you for the $50 cut. You show up and it takes 8 hours to mow. You do not want to fall in that category. You can't fall in that trap. So you've got to make sure that first cut is per minute.
You answered that question.
Let's go. Good to see you. Yeah.
Biggest mistakes you made while you were scaling?
Oh, mercy. Yeah, so you know this morning I said, did I say that this morning? Oh man, it's all mixing together, sorry. I think I said it before lunch. No, I didn't say this. I said this on another video, I apologize. The 2 worst ways to grow your business. 2 least profitable ways to grow your business. Mercy, gotta get more whiteboards for me, Joel. What's that? Apparently, dude. Okay. So 2 worst ways, least profitable ways to grow your business is 1, geographically. Yeah, see, we're just going to go with geographic. Okay, cool. And then second way is adding services. Okay. So yesterday when I was in training, they have on, I think it's FMS. Is it FMS or Jim's Jobs where you choose what services you want? FMS. Let's go. I'm learning the lingo. Oh, you guys are all wrong. Shame on you. All right. Jim's Online. That's when you choose which services you want. I saw this long list of services, and I was like, oh, boy. I would not choose every single one. It's very tempting to do these 2 things to grow your business, and these are the least profitable ways to do it. These are the easiest and least profitable ways to grow your business. Geographically, just servicing more and more customers further and further away from home base, least profitable way. More and more drive time, this number gets smaller and smaller because more and more of your time is being in a truck. Okay? The second way, adding services. Oh yeah, I can do bush trimming. Oh yeah, I can do fertilization. Oh yeah, I can do sod. Do you know what sod is? Installing sod and soil. Okay. I can do seeding. I can do gutters. I can do pressure washing. I can do this and that. You're going to add all these services, and now what you've built is 10 different types of companies inside of under one entity. I would much rather have a business, I tell my franchisees all the time, I'd much rather have a business that has $500,000 in annual revenue doing just mowing than I would have a $1.5 or $2 million business doing 10 different services. You know why? It takes 10 times longer to train somebody if I'm having all these other services. And I know for you it's easy. And this is a reason back to your question, Joel, about someone that went big and then had to withdraw. A lot of times it's because you started adding services. And so what happens when you start trying to train people, it takes you way too long to train them for them to actually become profitable in the business. And they have way more mistakes, and they're way less efficient because you're trying to train them on 10 different things. And so it is very seductive to fall in this, and this is the trap that I fell into. Did you ask the question? Mistakes I made? Oh, you said. Yeah. These are the mistakes I made. I started Servicing properties that were 30-minute drive away from me, bad move. Should have stayed within the 1 mile radius, 2 kilometer radius around me. That's where all the money was at. I could keep that number really nice and high, the efficiency number. Again, when you're solo, you can hide these. Because guess what? You do the driving. It doesn't cost you any more overhead. So a lot of bad businesses are hid by the fact that the owner just works crazy hours. I make $70,000, $80,000 profit. Great. But if you took away someone else's wages, how much are you making? I challenge everyone, including solo operators, to take away how much you work every single day in terms of hourly, multiply that by what you'd have to pay someone per hour, take that off of your profit and see how profitable your business really is. That's what your business is actually making. Otherwise, you just have a really fancy job that you get to work 14 hours a day, you get calls in the middle of the night, and you have to do leads and all this other garbage. Bad job. So I did this at the beginning, started servicing way too far away, started doing adding services. We did artificial turf, we had skid loaders, track loaders, massive dump trucks. I got injured underneath a dump truck, got sucked up within the PTO around my neck, had to go to the hospital. All of that I attribute to adding services. Over the past 5 years, since, well, 6 years since that time, we just slowly, every single year at our locations, just take away more and more services. I consistently see people who grow their company. I could grow $1 million business in less than 12 months every single day of the week. I could do that, but I'd be doing big services. I'd be doing a bunch of services like big projects, patios, retaining walls, water features. I can do all those things, but good luck trying to find anyone in this labor market that can do it as good as you and be able to get them time and time and time again, or more or less, or worse yet, get someone who doesn't have the skills and train them up in any sort of given time frame at a profitable level. Because if your average churn is 2 or 3 months that people stay with you, and it takes you 2 or 3 months to get them to a level of profitability, good luck trying to grow a business. You'll always just say, oh, employees aren't worth it, I'm going back to being solo. Yeah, because you added so many services that you can't train them up in 2 or 3 days. So what we try to do is try to reduce it back to where someone can be fully autonomous, what we call a solo route. They can go out and use their own truck within 2 weeks. If they can't do that, they're fired. We have to get them up fast enough because the churn is so high in all of our labor markets now that we only expect someone to stick around for an average of 3 months. So if they're not going to make a company profit within 2 weeks, you're out.
So what's the average time the person stays in your company is 3 months?
That's the industry average in the US. And honestly, if you actually look, everyone always is shocked by that. But take all the people who stay with you for a year and then take the person who just stay with you for 1 day. Okay, now your average tenure is 6 months. Right? So 3 months is very normal. It's actually lower than that now.
A question from online is, going beyond stage 1, sounds like also critical for the franchisee to delegate, outsource, allow others to take care of their non-critical tasks, i.e. admin, bookkeeping, etc. How do you convince a franchisee to let go of their non-critical tasks? And this is what bookkeeper online is.
They want business. So first of all, what you have to do is you call Jim's Bookkeeping and yeah, like I think as you grow, like I talked about this morning, the only 2 things that really matter in growing your business is sales and hiring. So anything besides that, if your goal is to grow, should be delegated. And the faster you do that, the faster your business will grow. So that's why, like at Augusta, we take everything off their plate besides those 2 things. So we do all phone calls, emails, payroll, scheduling, invoicing, billing. We do everything for them because I expect them to go grow a business within a few months very, very quickly. So if you want to do that, you're going to have to go get a bookkeeper. You're going to have to hire, like why in the world would you have your guys that you're paying $25 an hour and now overtime at the end of a week, why would you have them fuel up the trucks? Get some kid, wants to make a little extra money on the weekend out of high school, have them fill up all the trucks and clean them out on the weekend. All right? So it's just a matter of thinking about every single hour and then thinking about just more efficient ways of doing things.
Another question online from Nathan's gone. How do you know when to take the next step to getting your first employee?
When you've hit capacity, that would be the first step. And when I talk about capacity, I mean you would have excess capacity because you could hire someone and go get an extra $8,000 a month in revenue, right? So did I erase that? Oh man. So I was at $10,000 a month in revenue. I could go to $18,000, right? That's a delta, a difference of $8,000 in revenue. Let's assume that cost me $3,000 in labor. Now I have a $5,000 extra profit if I go hire somebody. The question is, can you go from $10,000 to $18,000? Do you have enough leads? And based upon what I hear in gyms, that's not a problem. All right, so I really don't see any sort of excuse as to why you cannot make that jump very quickly. Based upon what I keep hearing, everyone's like, there's no problem finding work. I'm like, why aren't you growing if you want to grow? Like, there is no excuse for anyone in this room that everyone raised their hand this morning. We want to grow our businesses. If you don't have a problem with sales, the only issue you have is hiring people. That's the only one.
And that's the big issue. Yeah.
And so why would I be doing my bookkeeping when that's my only issue? Why would I be, figuring out the type of hubcaps on my truck and how much PSI is in my tires? Who gives a care? Go hire people. And you're like, oh man, they're so bad. Get 5 of them. Maybe one of them will work. Try P for P out for a day. See what happens when you give them a percentage of the revenue instead of just an hourly wage. Oh my word, they got 2 extra lawns done. That's an extra $150 in your pocket. Yeah.
Another question on Mike from Brad while she's gone. Does Mike have a method or formula to finding your price ceiling aside from lead conversion percentage, or a growth plan based on your business cost with a profit target to set what you need?
Whoa, there's too many questions. First one. Okay, first one. In terms of reaching your price penetration.
Does Mike have a method or formula to finding your price ceiling aside from lead conversion percentage?
Yeah, raise your prices by 10% until you lose 20% of your customers. Once you've hit that, you're probably at profit maximization. Can I expound? All right, give me a second. All good things start on the whiteboard. Okay. Is this making sense or is this like stupid? It's good? Okay. All right. These idiot US people come over here and start talking gibberish, so don't want to be one of those. All right. Back to what we were talking about at lunch. We got price and value. I don't even need a whiteboard. I can do this with my hands. Price and value is an important thing. When someone asks you what the price is, the immediate thing is like, you have a dollar amount, right? How do you quantify value? It's very different than price. Here's how I like to explain it. Sorry for everyone online. Give me 1 second. So, you have price and you have value, okay? As long as value is slightly higher than price, the transaction will take place. What I mean by that is this bottle of water. This is the most annoying thing in the world. Okay, this bottle of water to me right now is probably worth $3. That's the value I impute on it. Which means if I walked over there right now and it was for sale for $5, guess what? Transaction doesn't take place. Now if it's $2 and my value is $3, I will buy this. Now my value changes based upon what? Mostly how thirsty I am. Because my value on this water will probably be $100 if I'm in the middle of the Sahara Desert and I'm just dying for water, about to die. Whereas if I am literally just drank a gallon of water for a competition, the value of this is probably less than a penny that I would pay for this water bottle. So value is very fluid. No pun intended, okay? And so what that means is to our customers, we're so worried about the price when the only thing we need to concern ourselves is our price slightly lower than value? Because at this level, the transaction will take place. If you're charging $80 per hour and if you're charging $80 per hour and the customer's value is $95 per hour, the transaction will take place. Make sense? If you're charging $80 per hour, but the customer only sees a value of $70, the transaction will not take place. Here's the problem. There's the delta between the value that you're seeing and what you're charging is wasted opportunity. Because your customers right now are seeing a value on you of a $90 an hour and you're charging $70, which means you left $20 an hour on the table. So the only way to know how close can I get to value and maximize my profit, because the perfect scenario is that they value me at 90 and I am charging 89. That's the perfect profit equation. How do you find that equilibrium is what I just said to him. You raise your prices by 10% until you lose 20% of your customers. That's why I freak out when people say, I have 80, 90% close ratio. You have a massive difference between value and price and you're leaving money on the table. Raise your prices or go hire people and grow. Because if you're not doing one of those two things, you are literally insane. The only reason you have that large of a discrepancy between value and price is so you have a high close ratio. The only reason you should have a high close ratio is so you grow your business and you get more jobs and more customers and hire more people. So if you're not trying to do that, that's why I just do not get why people turn off their leads here. It just makes no sense to me, and then they tell me they want to grow their business. The only problem is hiring. And if that's the problem, that's the only thing you do. So bookkeeping, legal, every other possible thing, cleaning the trucks, sharpening the blades, doing your mechanics. Like if you're fixing the mower, forget it. You're not doing that anymore. Tie your hands, pretend you don't know mechanics like me. I don't have a clue how to do a carburetor. I don't even know what a carburetor is. I've never done that stuff. And it's been my biggest benefit because I've had to let other people do those things and focus on the things that actually grow the company.
How often would you raise prices?
I would raise my prices until I lose 20% of customers. We've raised our prices to existing customers 3 times in the past 12 months.
Okay, so every
I wouldn't do that often usually, but with inflation, that's how fast things are going up. And we've lost less than 5% of customers, so we'll keep raising prices. You have to remember that there's a lot of pain in transferring a vendor. You're concerned like, oh man, $5 more per cut. Oh man. You know what the customer's thinking? Oh, $5, thank goodness. I don't have to go find another vendor that I don't trust, don't know if they're going to do a good job, don't know how they do billing, don't know if they're a friendly face, don't know if they come with a uniform. That's a lot of risk for someone who has a high value property. You've got to remember, if you're servicing an affluent retiree, most of their net worth is tied up in their real estate. You are servicing their net worth. You're making sure their most valuable asset, the thing that they literally have their retirement wrapped up in, is maintained. Oh no, I'm just a lawn care guy. Forget it. You're maintaining their best asset, their net worth. Everything is hinging on you doing a good job. If you think about it like that, you'll raise your prices. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. With Augusta, what's your targeted close rate to get to that maximum profit?
Yeah, so if you're trying to max, so very different, right? This is where people get confused. You'll hear me say one thing, and that's like, grow your business, all about close ratio. And the next words out of my mouth are, we have a 30 to 40% close ratio. Because that's where I see the money, the profit maximization being. So we raised our prices to the point where I don't want to keep growing. So I'll be at 30 to 40% close ratio. If someone's trying to grow in our company, I tell them over 70% is what you need. That's why if you're over 70, 80, I just don't understand why you're not growing. Right? You should be growing at that size, and then you get to a stage, okay, I'm fine here. Like, I'm in stage 2. I don't need to go to stage 3. I want more employees. Great. Raise your prices. Keep your leads on. Why would you not, think about it like this, why would you not pay $15 to take a customer that's willing to pay a higher price and then remove one of your lowest paying customers by raising their price, and then you lose them, kick them out, and bring in for $15, put a brand new one that's willing to pay your premium price? So keep your leads on. At the very worst, you're going to keep upgrading your client list. At the very best, you're going to keep growing.
There's another one live from Nathan's gone. Tips for finding good staff or hiring friends?
Yeah, so what Dan had said there is really important in terms of hiring friends, family, and then looking for like the friends of the friends of the friends. That's great. The problem that runs into is when you're really scaling, right? So if you're getting 4 or 5 employees, that is the route to go. People you know and who know them, and so on and so forth. We give our guys $500 if they can get someone else to join the team, $250 at the day of signing, $250 after 6 weeks. Okay, that's a great incentive. As you grow past that, though, you know the one location has 20. We have other locations that have more than that. You just tap out of people that know the company. And so that's when you have to go advertise Indeed, Facebook, etc. And then you just got to get really good at doing interviews. So again, like we talked about this morning, if the only thing you need to grow your business is hiring, you need to figure out how do I create a system around getting good people into my organization, right from right from applicant, right at the front. All right, so let's think about it like this. We all get trained at training here about taking a lead into doing a quote, into doing a proposal to them in person, and then sending that quote to them, and then doing the job, and then doing follow-up. We all get that, right? Makes perfect sense. The same thing, because the only bottleneck, that's not the bottleneck for anyone here. We all just admitted that this morning. We don't have any problem finding work. Great. We need to think about the same way when it comes to hiring. Instead of thinking about a lead, I want you to think about an applicant. And now the applicant, when they come and apply for you, like the same way a lead comes to you, like, I want service. Do you just let them, like, you give them an estimate and then just like hope and cross your fingers and hope they come back? No, you call them, hey, did you get my estimate? Do you have any questions about your estimate? Do you want me to go over it? Do you have any objections about the price, anything like that? Why aren't we doing that with applicants? Why do we just get an application, send them an interview request, and then just never hear back? Why don't we follow up? Why do we do an interview and then never follow up with them? Never follow up. Hey, do you have any questions? Do you have any questions about how we do P4P? Do you have any questions about how we do our incentive program here? Why aren't we following up the same way that we would with a lead out in the field? Why, when we sell a customer, we make sure we send them, nice gifts. We say thank you to them. We put little treats underneath their mat for them. We give them a birthday card or a Christmas card or thank you gift card. But yet our employees, once we hire them, it's like, yeah, get in the truck, let's go. Like, why aren't we doing the same thing to them? Why don't we constantly resell ourselves to them? We talk about upselling all the time, looking for areas in your customer's property where you can make more money on. Why aren't we thinking about that when it comes to hiring? Taking your existing employees and trying to make them make more money. Hey, if you did this a little bit different with your hedging, you'd be able to make a little more on P4P. Oh, you know what? Here's a gift card. I heard you and your girlfriend are going out this evening. I like this restaurant. Check this out. Why aren't we doing that to them? We do that for customers all the time, but if the only bottleneck you have in your business is hiring, why are we not focused on that? Right?
What resources do you recommend? Like, they want to learn, obviously, your content, but what stuff?
Of course. No, I'm joking.
What stuff do you listen to, or where did you get your knowledge from?
Yeah, like I think the day you stop learning, the day you start dying, right? So every single day I'm listening to podcasts, books, sermons. Who has Audible? Anyone know what it is? Everyone should download Audible. We have 400 books for our team that they can listen to. Everything about leadership, making money, business, real estate, investing, entrepreneurship. We have books from like autobiographies from the war. We have all sorts of stuff that they can listen to all day long. And I listen to the books I read, the stuff I listen to, they have free access to. I recommend everybody just listening all day long, especially if you're mowing. There's like 8 hours a day where you're like, like, why would you not plug into something that's going to give you a little more value than just a all day long? And it's better than like, just listen to something good, like an Audible program. There's podcasts. You can literally learn from like the smartest people in the world. This morning, I was running up and down the road, listening to Joe Rogan interview Mark Zuckerberg, guy who started Facebook. Like, that's nuts! For free! Didn't pay a single dollar. I'm flying across the entire earth to come over here to Australia to learn for the week, and here I am listening while I'm running to like a billionaire, like one in a billion guy for free. Why in the world are we not tapping into that every single day? So I'm just constantly trying to learn.
I'm going to talk one more question.
One more question. Cool. Going once, going twice. Yeah.
What's the biggest things you look for when you're hiring people?
Yeah, like, man, that's tough. So I don't do a ton of interviewing anymore, but if you want to see a really controversial video, about 2 weeks ago I interviewed someone and I recorded it, and I got a ton of flack online. If you go on Facebook, it has like 600,000 views already, and people just demolished me. I'm like the worst human in the world, potentially. So, so I actually broke down his body language in the video of how he sat, when I asked certain questions, what he did to be able to kind of read what was happening. If they talk bad about a previous employer, they're going to talk bad about you. Like, people don't change. And when I said that on the video, people just like freaked out. If they're late to the interview, no go. People freaked out about that. If they, say they only do drugs occasionally, I don't believe them. I'm sorry. Like, I'm just skeptical. So the thing is, though, hire fast and fire fast, right? So especially if you're having trouble finding people, just hire them. Give them a shot. Especially if you're solo, you can let them work with you for a day, right? Make sure you sign off on the thing that we heard on training. Like, sign off that from a liability standpoint. Like, we can't do that anymore because we don't have. I'm not out in the field with the guys. But if you are a solo operator, especially your first employee, I'd hire everyone with a pulse and try them out for a day. Because like, who knows? Maybe they're good. I can't do that when you have 20 guys and then you're putting them in a truck and equipment and all the rest of it without my direct eyeballs on them all day long. But that's what I would do. If you're struggling to find your first person, like, I'm sorry, I don't have any sympathy. I just don't. You can hire anyone that's willing to apply, try them out for a day, you have eyes on them all day long, and you don't even need P4P, because the only reason you need P4P is to manage unmanaged labor. When you are the owner on the property with eyes on them every single day, like you're working with them all day, you don't need P4P, because you are actively managing them. You only need P4P when they go drive out the driveway every morning and you're not with them. So I hire everybody if you're a solo operator. I just, hey, you want to try out for it? This is how you sell it. Let's make sure it's a good fit for you. And if you like it after the first day, I'll give you a job. Right? And then you go with them for a day. If you don't like them, you don't give them the job. Cool. Epic. Great. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
Can I
Mike. Appreciate
take
it, mate.
this?
Yeah, go. Take
Ours
it.
is empty.
No worries. Thanks, Mike. And as I said, we were very lucky. It was just dumb luck that we had Mike over here doing the training, and we sort of forced him up here to do that. So we hopefully got a lot of value off it. This will be all recorded as well. So all the recordings we're going to make available as a YouTube video if you want to watch it. MikeAndys.com to find out about all this stuff as well. We did do an interview with him the other day, which goes into a bit more detail as well about all the stuff you're hearing. So don't worry about jotting it down. We do have it as a video as well.